first movie I want to talk about today is a movie I've been hearing about. It's got a strange title, The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. And obviously, or not obviously, but this movie is based on a book that came out a few years ago. It was supposedly a very popular book. I never heard of it, and I read books all the time, and for some reason it went right past me, and then they made this movie, and I kept hearing about it, reading about it, and finally discovered it on Netflix. So I don't know if it had a theatrical run that just didn't reach our area, or if they just decided, hey, we're just going to go straight for the kill and send this movie straight to Netflix. But from the title, the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, it just sounds like it'd be some comedy that, I don't know, maybe wouldn't appeal to me that much. But watching the movie, I found out it's anything but that. It takes place during the 1940s. Some scenes are in 1941, and other scenes are in 1946 after the war is over. But it concerns a group of people on the Isle of Guernsey, off the British coast. And during the war, they are occupied by the Germans. And just a small group of people get together to meet secretly. They're not supposed to, have any kind of group meetings or anything like that unless they're on an approved list by the Germans. But this group of maybe 4 or 5 people decide to get together, and they bring food that they have managed to store away that hadn't been taken over by the Germans. And they meet. And then one night on their way home, they're stopped by the Germans when they're going to their different homes and are asked what they're doing out, and they come up quickly with an answer that they've been at a book club per se. And the Germans say, well, what is the name of the club? And they say they all have something to do with farming, so they say the Guernsey Literary, and one of the people had made a potato peel pie, and Potato Peel Pie Society. And they say, oh, okay. And then they've escaped the Germans that time, so then they feel like they have to keep getting together and actually have this society formed. And they read different books, and one of the men in the group reads a book by a woman, a British who lives in London, who's an author, and her name and address is in the book. So he writes to her and tells her how much that her book has meant to them, and she is so taken with the fact that they read this obscure little book that she had written. She'd written many more after that were more popular, but this little book is obscured, and she's so touched by it that she writes and asks if she can come and meet with the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. And she goes there and discovers that there's a whole story behind this group joining together, and that makes the core of the movie, and it's a very good movie. Lily James, who played Cinderella, who was on Downton Abbey, plays the author who goes to Guernsey. And then among the people that she meets, the group was formed by Jessica Brown Findlay, who was also in Downton Abbey, Tom Courtney, Michael Huisman, Penelope Wilson, and Catherine Parkinson. And Lily James leaves behind a fiance. She's just gotten engaged. She's played by Glenn Powell. And then she has a publisher who she's very close to, who is played by Matthew Goode. All of these characters, all of the actors are good. The movie is great because it's got a story that really pulls you in and holds your interest. It's on Netflix, so it's not rating, but it probably fall into the PG-13 category because of profanity and some violence, with the German occupation. It held my attention, and it was so good to see a movie that had a unique story and all of that. I felt like I was enjoying it more than it really deserved, but it was because with all the August movies that are out that aren't that good, this one did tell you a story, and the actors were good. So I rated it 7 out of 10. You know, it's worth your time. It's not the best movie of this type I've ever seen, but it's a very good movie of this type. Then from there, I went to see the movie Alpha. And Alpha came out a few days ago, and I didn't get a chance to see it. It was a book that takes place 20,000 years ago in Europe. There are different tribes, nomadic tribes that live there, and men have these crude weapons, and they go out on the hunt ever so often, during the year, because they have to bring food back, and they'll go out to kill buffalo and other animals to eat. And they have to do it in the summer, and spring, summer, early fall, because the winters get so severe that they can't hunt during this time. And they're a man and woman there, and they have a son who has reached the age that he's going on his first hunt. And he is played by Cody Smit-McPhee. He was the only actor. I've seen him in other movies. He's a young actor, but at least I recognized him. I didn't recognize anybody else. I did recognize the voice that narrated the movie, and it was Morgan Freeman. So I did have those points to hang on to. But this is just a movie about the boy. He's a teenager. On the hunt, there's an accident. He goes over a cliff. His father thinks that he is dead. All the other members of the tribe think that he is dead, and they convince the father that there's nothing he can do, and they head back home. But the boy, of course, isn't dead, and he's been injured, and his right leg, I think it is injured. But he comes to, and he realizes that he's got to find his own way home. And as he starts stumbling along, he kind of makes a structure for his leg to fit in to try to give it support. But as he makes his way home, he gets involved with a wolf. And he injures the wolf, but he's not dead. And they kind of are, he stays on, they get to a cave, and he stays on his side of the cave, and the wolf's on the other side of the cave. And then he realizes that they've got to have food, and he goes out and manages to get him some food, and he comes back, and then he begins to share the food with the wolf. And you never know in this movie how much time transpires between these different occurrences. But eventually, he begins to feed the wolf, and the wolf responds, and then they kind of wait each other out, and then kind of get to the point where they depend on each other, and then start the long trek to try to find their home together. And it's basically a boy and his dog story, here Lassie, come here Lassie, Lassie saves the day, or etc. Except in this case, it's a wolf. And it's a very simple story in that respect. It's well done, but it shows these people who lived 20,000 years ago, and they've got these like fur-lined coats, and they look like something you buy at the Gap or something. I mean, I didn't know that they had the ability to make shoes like they do. There's fur on the shoes, but it's stitched together perfectly. I don't know. It just didn't ring that true as to what would be going on 20,000 years ago. But you just have to accept that as it is. The film is rated PG-13 because there's violence between the boy and other animals, the violence with the wolf, etc. And it's pretty intense for kids, I think, to see the struggles that they go through. The movie is all in subtitles. They just invented a language for these people to speak. I can't imagine that it's a true language, but it sounds like something they just, created. But it's got subtitles. I don't know why they didn't just do a transition, have them start out talking in this language that they created, and then just translate into English, and then you could say, okay, I realize they're speaking a language I don't know, but we're hearing it in English, and that would have made it a lot easier and a lot better. But I scored the movie 5 out of 10, right across the middle. It's just an average film about a boy and his wolf.